Welcome to this episode of the Million Dollar Mastermind. I'm Larry Weidel, and before we get started, if you want to know exactly how to win again and again, go to weidelonwinning.com/webinar now to watch something I've put together for you. Now let's get going into this episode of Million Dollar Mastermind. I'm here this afternoon with Tricia Binder, and we're talking about winning. And Tricia knows a lot about it. She has spent years working inside exciting divisions and product lines and brands inside the corporate, Fortune 500 companies with S.E. Johnson, Leslie Purine, and Nordstrom. And she's worked in operations, but she's also worked in marketing roles. And eventually she worked herself in a position where she could start her own company. And she's the co-founder and president of Muros, and they are they specialize in murals and street arts. And this year, we're getting Tricia at a great time because they are surging. They have already this year passed their first 2 years of revenue already in 2021, first 6 months. So it's great to run a multi-million dollar business. And, the compounding is a fun thing, but it's not as much fun when you're doing the ones and twos. It's great to where you've got something happening all the time. So Tricia, let's talk about winning the battle of the learning curve, which you brought up the last time, because you start something, and like you pointed out, there's going to be a learning curve in doing anything, starting anything, and you got to fight your way through that to where you can start to see those metrics or those numbers that we were talking about start to show up. And the reason most businesses fail is not that they don't work, not that they don't have a good product, but it's they don't get enough sales, clients, business coming in before they run out of time and money. And so that has to do with planning and things like that. But, that is getting through that learning curve where you're learning how to be, as you brought out in the early thing, you're learning how to be intentional, what are the things that turn into revenue, and how can we make that happen in the shortest period of time. So welcome back, Tricia. And that's a long-winded introduction to this, but it's been fun talking with you, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say and tell us about winning the battle of the learning curve.
Yeah, I have to say, winning the battle of the learning curve, always a challenge, but I think it sometimes just comes down to patience. It's certainly, at least for me, terrifying, to not always know or have the answer or know how much is riding on your shoulders. But I think, just fighting through it and keeping focused on what you're doing with an eye to what's working, what's not working, and being willing to pivot and make changes and be accepting of mistakes or downfalls. We certainly make them all the time. And we recognize that, even though we don't have all the things solved for, we don't even always have enough time in the day to really be as thoughtful or strategic as we want. Celebrating those incremental wins and just staying focused on, where you still need better ideas and better solutions, I think is incredibly important, because there's never a shortage of opportunities in my experience, especially, being in a younger, again, about 3-year-old company. It's always coming, fast and furious. And it's just kind of, sticking to it and again, staying focused and headed in the direction that you want to head in.
Now, when you started went from one company to another, it's it's amazing. It's like winning the Super Bowl. The next year, Nick Saban at the University of Alabama with the football team, they'd win the national championship, and they'd start off, get all the players. They get back home and get all the players in a room, and they'd have a big celebration, everything. He said, now I'd like the seniors to leave the room. And he says, the rest of you guys, you haven't won nothing. and we're going to go to work now so you can win your championship.
Right.
And, when you start with a new company or you start a new company, all your past awards and everything, that don't matter. I mean, you got to perform in the new job and talk about moving from one, they can be cold and impersonal type situations, but talk about moving from super success, comfort, mastering a situation in one company and moving over to another big giant company where again they're super competitive, they're driven to perform, they expect you, they're not going to give you 3 years to get comfortable, they want you to make a contribution right away. So talk about the learning curve and those transitions and what you remember about that.
Yeah, I think in those situations, and you're right, you're always kind of almost in a sense starting over. Like maybe you have a fuller toolbox that you're bringing with you, but there's so much that you need to learn and understand. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is wanting to like jump in too soon with like thoughts or opinions. I've always felt that when you're making that transition, that like really being a sponge and listening for your first couple of weeks, months there, like really understanding the differences, the nuances of a particular business are so important so that they can begin to influence how you're thinking about those challenges, because it could be the same thing that they want to accomplish, but based on the nuances of any given business or a different demographic or target market or whatever the case might be, or resource limitations, there's just going to be a different approach that you need to take. So I think, again, being like humble and stepping into it and really being a great listener and in hearing from those that are the experts there, and at that organization and with that business is one of the most important things that you can do.
And the thing is, by taking your time, focusing on the fundamentals, asking, come armed with questions. Don't come armed, blowing off a bunch of, we always love, we have offices, training centers where we got hundreds of people coming in and out, we're leading the nation. And then somebody bring a potential recruit in and the guy you'd meet him afterwards and he would say, man, that was really impressive. I really like the way you did. I love the energy. But he said, I've got a lot of experience in this area. Let me give you a few ideas about how you can make it better. You just look at the guys like, how have you gotten this far in life and being that stupid? But they're out there. But, as you get in the beginning, you want to get the fundamentals down. You need to know who, what, where, when, how, and you got to give yourself a chance to ask the questions or study or observe to where you can feel confident that you're building some skills for that particular situation and some instincts that are relevant or educated instincts for that situation before you just start firing your gun off in all directions. And what kind of process would you go through when you move to a new company?
Yeah, so usually my first step is to begin meeting with as many stakeholders or different departments as possible. And again, really just asking questions, as you said, like ask questions, don't come with all the answers. And getting a sense of, what are their biggest hurdles? What are they looking for from the role or the function that I'm stepping in? What are they not getting? What do they want to see? What's been successful in the past? I think when you're able to get that sort of immediate intel, and also, by the way, like make allies in the organization, I think that gives you the foundation that you need to really begin thinking through and diagnosing different opportunities and what solutions or what approaches could be. But without getting, that kind of like a well-rounded perspective, again, from multiple functions who touch a particular role or department or area within an organization, I don't think you're going to be able to make as big of an impact as fast as you want, as you could if, again, you took more of a, kind of intake type of position and approach to beginning in a new organization.
Hey, listen, there's a lot of information online, but there aren't a lot of people who've actually done something. In my case, I've actually built a successful business that's accrued over $5 billion in assets under management. and has done well even during trying times. Now, if you want to know exactly how I've done this, go to whiteelementwinning.com/webinar now. I've compressed a decade of learning into 5 short weeks just for those of you who want to give yourself an incredible advantage and are tired of waiting and watching others move up. Now, when you moved, what would you say you learned from moving from one company to another? What was fresh and what was exciting for you when you did that? And then finally you said, I've had enough. I'm going to start my own.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fun thing about all the different organizations that I've been at is that they really do all have, different cultures, different challenges, different opportunities. Even, I spend a lot of time in CPG, probably the first, I guess, maybe 15 years of my career. And just because it's consumer packaged goods doesn't mean, there's a single key to unlock every door. There's always something new and nuanced. And for me, that was always very exciting. Even every brand has their own, their own personality, the way that they approach things, the way that they speak to things. So I loved, especially like in digital marketing, I got to span across so many different brands and be able to consult for them. So there's always something new and fresh and different and new product launches. I love the CPG world for that reason. So I think for me, like that was, a lot of fun and very interesting. And I was constantly learning new things because it was so different. But I think, at the end of the day, I kind of had this goal probably, maybe after I turned 30 or so, that I really wanted to begin working towards and learning as much as I could, as broadly as I could, to be able to go and do my own thing one day. So I was always trying to gobble up as much experience as possible. And I remember, when I left one of my roles and I moved back to the Chicago area, I was really sad to leave because it was such a phenomenal organization, but I just felt like I had more learning and personal growth to do. And I wasn't willing to I needed to kind of keep forcing myself into different things that I didn't understand. And that eventually kind of got me to here, where again, I wanted to start my own thing, really be able to build something from the ground up and really be able to influence, where that company went and the culture of the organization. Because I think people and culture and leadership are things I ran into in my career where I wasn't always, happy, or maybe felt like we shared the same values. And I wanted something that I could really influence in that respect.
And would you say that as you were looking for places, products, things that you could get excited about before you connected with them? Would you say that's part of it?
Yeah, that's totally. You're 100% right. Like I really
And
wanted something I could get behind and that was exciting and interesting to me personally, so that I could pour myself into it professionally.
that's something that is the takeaway for, we got to constantly self edit, self coach, self challenge ourselves, grade ourselves, and like look at elements in your life and ask yourself, are you really excited about that? Now, there's some things you just gotta, mundane things you just gotta do, but that's not even true either. Most of those you can, uh, if you focus on things you really enjoy doing and get really great at it, like a surgeon is in medicine, you can hire a lot of people to do those things. Step by step, you can move up and offload those things that bring you down, that suck the life out of you. In the beginning, you got to do it, but do it with a vengeance so that you can move up to the top, move up to another level and get a staff around you to do some of those things for you. But the more you're spending time on things, people, situations that you're excited about, that's why I live in Palm Beach and Aspen. I go back and forth. I'm fired up about it. It's like I don't like to go to resorts. I like to live in a resort.
Yeah.
And it's like go to a resort and then I'm going to go back to a dungeon. It's like what I want to feel. I want to be energized. It took me, 30 years or something to get to where I could do that. But, eventually it happened. And I was, my original plan, Tricia, was to be able to set my business up to where I could run it from St. Moritz in Switzerland and, remote control. I had that. I worked on that for like 15 years. And then I found out what a nanny state Switzerland was, and like a bunch of school marms, is there the we won't get into it, but I was like, you know what? I like my freedom. And so I came to Aspen and I say, hey, Snowmass, it looks like the Swiss Alps. Aspen's just gorgeous. Go down to Palm Beach. It's just, a total the same thing, but just with the ocean and all. It's like, that's why I'm there. But there's like, who are your friends? Your friends, your associates, the projects you're in. Find that you're going to be your best if you're doing things that you're excited about. And so that's all part of setting yourself up for success. And so when you get involved in something new, you're more likely to win the learning curve in terms of staying with it long enough to get great at it because you're excited about it. You're doing something that you're fired up about. And so what would you add to that before we move on again, Tricia? What would you add to that?
Yeah, no, I love everything about that. I think the only add that I would have is just, I think really enjoying the people that you work with is so incredibly important, because oftentimes we're spending more time with them than we are with our families, or whatever the case might be. And I think being around good people that you really enjoy spending your day with, and who also can energize you when you are down or things are tough or something didn't go right, I think it's just so incredibly valuable to keeping you happy, focused, like ready to, somebody to pick you up when you need it. And I think surrounding yourself with individuals that do that for you is incredibly important and pertinent to your success.
If you enjoyed what you've heard and are dead serious about finding out for yourself exactly how this works in the real world, I've taken the most valuable business lessons I've learned over 40 years and put them into something for you to watch. Go to whiteelementary.com/webinar now in order to move up as fast as possible. I'm Larry Weidel, and I run the $1 Million Mastermind. Go, go, go.